Sitting for hours can wreak havoc on your health and posture. I only use standing desks. A standing desk helps me get the creative juices flowing. It helps me focus and stay productive. And the only standing desk I've been using for years is Uplift Desk. Long before they became a sponsor, I'm sitting at it right now. Uplift desks are rock solid. They offer way more customization options unlike other brands. You can choose the shape, material, color, accessories. The possibilities are endless. Go to upliftdesk.com/Pacman to receive up to $300 off plus 4 free desk accessories. The link is in the description. Well, this is certainly a strange way to start a show. On February 20th, 1939, a Nazi rally took place at Madison Square Garden. It was organized by the German-American Bund. More than 20,000 people attended, and Fritz Julius Kuhn was a featured speaker. This was billed as a pro-Americanism rally. Yesterday, Donald Trump recreated this rally in the same place. He brought lunatics and racists and xenophobes. A comedian named Tony Hinchcliffe even called Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage in the ocean. We'll get to that later. This may have been the single most disgusting rally I have ever seen, starting off in what was sort of a funny way as Melania Trump again dodging a kiss on the lips from Donald Trump. Apparently, the renegotiation of the prenup didn't include any kissy-kissy on the lips. And what a wild event with Donald Trump showing up 2 hours late, as is often the case these days. He's just hours late, explanation, who cares? But truly one of the most disgusting, hate-filled, just hate in every way, rallies. And no shortage of extraordinarily disturbing statements from the failed former and wannabe future president. Trump raising a lot of red flags by talking about a little secret. We've got a little secret, right? A little secret that he's going to tell you about after the election is over. What is Trump confessing to here?
And I think with our little secret, we're going to do really well with the House, right? Our little secret is having a big impact. He and I have a secret. We'll tell you what it is when the race is over.
Right. What on earth is Trump confessing to here? Probably the secret is he has ideas for how to steal not only the presidential election, but also the election in the House of Representatives. In maybe the creepiest moment, Trump, as we all know, focused on genes and genetics and who's got the good blood and this sort of thing. And Trump says he would like to have the children of JPJD Mandel Vance and Usha Vance. It just really creeps you out.
Brilliant woman, top student at Yale Law School. They were both top students.
DOP.
They're going to have very smart kids. If you believe in that, I believe in it strongly. I would like to have their children because they are going to be smart. Yale Law School, top of the class, both of them. Usha Vance, thank you, Usha, for being here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Trump not that thrilled, I guess, with the genetics of his children. Maybe his phrenology textbook that he maybe read 40 years ago suggests a little something different. I don't know. Now, as many of you know, it is said by Trump about himself, he supports the troops. He defends the military. The cupboards were bare when he came in and took over from Barack Obama. And also during his Nazi-style rally at Madison Square Garden yesterday, saying that a lot of the generals he had were weak and stupid people. Not exactly supporting the troops, is it?
We had stupid generals like Milley and Mattis, weak, stupid people. But fear not, we have great generals, just not the ones that you see on television all the time.
He supports the troops. No one supports the troops more strongly than he does, except the ones that have decided Trump's unfit to lead, except the ones unable or unwilling to lay down and have Trump walk all over them like a doormat, except for the troops that are working to defend against MAGA rioters. Other than all of those troops and the Mexican soldier whose funeral he doesn't want to pay for after agreeing to pay for, other than that and a long list of specific troops, he supports the troops, and it's the Democrats who don't. A scary moment for all of those who care about not having measles and all sorts of other contagious disease in society. Donald Trump promising during his rally to let Robert F. Kennedy Jr. go wild on health, foods, and medicines. That's a scary proposition.
Health and the environment than anybody. And he's going to be absolutely, having him is such a great honor. I've been friends of his for a long time. And I'm going to let him go wild on health. I'm going to let him go wild on the food. I'm going to let him go wild on
polio and measles and smallpox held a party last night when they heard this.
medicines. The only thing I don't think I'm going to let him even get near is the liquid gold that we have under our feet. I don't know, Elon, he might not like liquid gold. It's oil and gas, sometimes referred to as oil and gas. JD, I think we're going to have to keep him away from the oil and gas. What do you think, Howard?
Right.
Yes?
Yes, it will be a world in which there will be raw milk at every corner, but not a vaccine as near as the eye can see. As you know, various sycophants and dilettantes were at yesterday's rally. One such sort of new world sycophant is Elon Musk, who we recently learned worked illegally in the United States for all of his concern about all of the illegals and migrants. It turns out he was here working illegally at one point in time. Trump started praising Elon, who was in the audience with his mom. And Elon he was on the edge of genuflecting. That's how sycophantic this whole thing was.
And it straightened it out like this. And it came down and it landed, and then its two of these big, beautiful arms grabbed it and they held it tight. And
by the way, Trump is not describing a sexual encounter here. He's talking about the recent landing of a SpaceX rocket.
And I said, I wasn't sure if it was a movie. I thought it might be one of these crazy movies. And I said, I got to call Elon. And I call him. I said, Elon, was that you? This is like about 4 minutes after. Was that you? Yep, that was me. I say, Elon, you're a genius. You are a genius. You are. He is special.
Yep.
He is special.
And as you see Elon Musk's mom nodding, yes, he is a genius. He is a genius. It wasn't all fun and games and propaganda, though. There was also dangerous autocratic authoritarianism, which, if you're ever going to recreate the 1939 Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden, one would expect autocratic authoritarianism, and we saw it. Donald Trump turning his ire and the ire of the audience that was still there, of course, he was many hours late and people started to leave, against the press.
One thing I have been, even the enemy, because they are the enemy, what they've said, even that enemy too, and they're really the enemy. They're the enemy of the people, the press. They said
the enemy of the people, the press, and of course, Donald Trump threatening to suspend the broadcast licenses of CBS, MSNBC, ABC, specific journalists, specific reporters. That's what he plans to do, and we should believe him, as disgusting and depraved as it is. And then Donald Trump, as is often the case during these rallies, getting the timeline mixed up a little bit, where he says he's been fighting sinister forces for 9 years. Of course, Trump was in charge of the country for 4 of those 9 years.
Get your husband off the couch. The football game doesn't mean a damn thing. You got to get out and vote. Get up, Harry. Come on, Harry. Get up, Harry. Let's go. You're going to vote for the president, Harry. We're going to save our country. For the past 9 years, we have been fighting against the most sinister and corrupt forces on earth. With your vote in this election, you can show them once and for all that this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. It belongs to you.
And of course, speaking of who the nation belongs to, a real perfect Third Reich style moment where Donald Trump's propaganda speechwriter Stephen Miller said America is for Americans and Americans only.
The cartels are gone. The criminal migrants are gone. The gangs are gone. America is for Americans and Americans only. One man, and that man, ladies and gentlemen, that man took a bullet for you. He took a bullet for democracy.
Yeah. You could have expected a line like that at the 1939 Nazi rally, except that as a Jewish person, Stephen Miller would not have been welcome. But other than that, this is exactly the sort of crazy rhetoric you would have expected then. And then no shortage of cringe from Elon Musk as well, who did get an opportunity to speak.
Yeah. USA, USA, USA.
It's almost like a question. USA? USA?
USA, USA. Yes.
Yeah. So let me give you the good news and the bad news. And it's a lot of damn bad news here. If this guy wins, we're in trouble. We're in real trouble. Now, let me give you a glimmer of hope. Shortly after the 1939 Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden, the Bund rapidly declined. Let's see what happens this time in just 8 days. And what I can tell you for sure is that the 1939 Nazi rally did not wrap with Nazis doing the double jerk dance to a song about gay bathhouses, which oddly enough is how every Trump rally now ends. Okay. We're joking around a little bit because we want to laugh a little bit to avoid crying, but a hate-filled, disgusting event. And there was another aspect of this that requires some deeper examination, which is the comedy bit before the event started. Let's talk about that next. A comedian named Tony Hinchcliffe performed yesterday before Donald Trump's 1939 Nazi-style rally at Madison Square Garden. Now, he made some comments so disgusting and deplorable that he has already been denounced even by the Trump campaign and others. What did he say? He said that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean. This is the comment. And even some in the Trump audience said, ooh, I don't know about this.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody.
Yeah. Now, for anyone who is going to write to me saying I have some kind of vendetta against Tony Hinchcliffe or I don't understand comedy or something like that, I liked Tony Hinchcliffe's roast of Tom Brady. And the reason that it was good, it was that he was punching up, okay? He was going after celebrities. He was going after athletes. He was ridiculing Hollywood. He hit Tom Brady. He hit Bill Belichick. It was funny. And it was funny in a way that wasn't bullying. This is just punching down. It's punching down at brown people who have been treated like second-tier America by the U.S. government for a very long time as a territory of the United States. And this type of joke, if you can call it that, it appeals to people who feel better when they bully others, like these jokes do. People who themselves were bullied sometimes like jokes like this. People who are just jealous of others like jokes like this. People who think if I bully someone else, then maybe I'll stop getting bullied. They like these jokes. But there is a difference between jokes with racial elements that are funny in a way that they are inclusive and we're kind of laughing at everybody, and this sort of thing, which is just mean. It's just punching down. And even the audience in this crowd was like, yeah, some of us like it, some of us don't. We'll talk about the reaction from Republicans to it. Not good. Not good overall in terms of the Republican Party. And then another moment where it just fell flat, Tony Hinchcliffe talking about a black guy, and it all just, I'll be the first to say, many comedians tell race-based jokes and they are funny. This stuff just isn't funny.
All right. Heck yeah. It's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the stereotype, black people like watermelon. Yeah. All right. Now, part of the problem for Trump is Trump also has said the U.S. is a garbage can or something like that. So when Tony Hinchcliffe says Puerto Rico's garbage, they kind of seem like they're on the same page to a degree. And it's not even, again, it's not about you can't make race-based jokes. It's that these represent weaponization of MAGA xenophobia rather than any kind of clever cultural commentary. So Tony Hinchcliffe causing major problems for Trump. We'll talk about that after the break. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube at youtube.com/The David Pakman Show. I spend a lot of my day in front of screens, and sitting for long periods has been linked to poor heart health, bad posture, diabetes, the list goes on. And this is one of the many reasons I started using an Uplift standing desk many years ago, long before they became a sponsor. I stand when I'm doing work at the desk. I sit to film, and it's all on the same adjustable desk. A standing desk boosts my energy throughout the day, makes it easier to stay alert. I use the desk for everything. I'm sitting at it right now. I use it every day to record. I've tried a ton of different standing desks. A lot of them are wobbly or cheap. They don't provide cable management options. I've stuck with Uplift Desk for so long because it is rock solid and stable, built to last, super high quality materials. And they offer way more customization options. So many different things: keyboard trays, file cabinets, headphone holders, desktop computer trays, and everything you really need. And their desk configurator tool lets you customize it exactly the way you want: storage, ergonomic seating, wire management, all of it. And Uplift Desk is giving my audience up to $300 off plus 4 free accessories when you go to upliftdesk.com/Pakman. The link is in the description. The David Pakman Show does offer the full member experience for those who sign up at joinpakman.com. The full experience includes an extra show every single day called The Bonus Show. Alex Jones, conspiracy theorist, is furious that we have such a show.
Oh, the bonus show where you want to make money, but everybody else that makes money to fund themselves is bad.
He hates it.
That is a frickin' predator right there.
He calls it predatory that we have a bonus show. But I'm offering you nothing other than a good time. Consider supporting the work that we do. The most direct way to do that is just getting a membership at joinpakman.com. Tucker Carlson also spoke, appearing to have an almost manic episode on stage during Donald Trump's 1939 Nazi-style rally at Madison Square Garden yesterday. Tucker doing something very dangerous. Yes, he's insulting Kamala Harris's ethnicity and IQ, but that's not the dangerous part. It's disgusting, but it's not dangerous. But he is continuing to lay the groundwork for Trump to challenge this election. They're going to challenge it. They're going to claim they won no matter the results. Listen to what Tucker had to say, and then we will discuss.
At that moment, it's going to be pretty tough for them 10 days from now to look in the eye to America with a straight face. It's going to be pretty hard to look at us and say, you know what? Kamala Harris, she got 85 million votes because she's just so impressive. As the first Samoan, Malaysian, low IQ, former California prosecutor ever to be elected president, it was just a groundswell of popular support. And anyone who thinks otherwise is just a freak or a criminal. At this stage of the game, after 9 years of listening to their lies and finding every single one of them totally false. No, it's not safe and effective. And no, she's not impressive. It's very hard for me to believe the rest of us are going to say, you know what, Joe Scarborough, you're right. You're right. She won fair and square because she's just so impressive. I don't think so. And to me, that is liberation. It's the freedom to say what's obviously true as a free man and not a slave. And I just want to say thank you, Donald Trump, for that.
Thanks to Donald Trump liberating Tucker Carlson from the grapple of slavery, he is now able to tell us there's no way that low IQ Samoan Malaysian Kamala Harris could win this thing because she's not really impressive. Now, there's a bunch of different things here, and there is a lot of material here. Tucker seeming manic, we know about his manic episodes. I don't have much to say about that. The analogy, or not even an analogy, alluding here to how because she's not impressive in Tucker's eyes, she couldn't possibly win. This country has a long history of voting for morons into office, voting for morons for president and voting them into office. Whether or not Kamala Harris is impressive, she could be extraordinarily impressive, but that doesn't mean she would necessarily win because we have tens of millions of people in this country who vote for the doofus every single time. So that's not even really the gotcha that you think it is. Even if they can say, oh, Kamala's not impressive. She's not impressive. She's not smart. She's low IQ. She's Samoan. She's Malaysian. All these different things that they use as insults. Even if they were true, it wouldn't tell us much about her capacity to win because this is a country that elected Trump after all. This is a country that elected George W. Bush. So that doesn't tell us much. But the most important part, the most critical part, the most actionable part, now that we are 8 days away from this election, is he is telegraphing the plan to build up the case that there's no way Kamala Harris could have won unless she cheated. Samoan Malaysians with low IQ don't win unless they cheat. Democrats don't win unless they cheat. Those who challenge Donald Trump don't win, can't win unless they cheat. That's where they are on message. They have different ways of saying it. Tucker Carlson does it with this manic rant about Samoan Malaysian. Others do it by talking about the propaganda that's out there that the Democrats are putting out. There's no, this is all part of the plan. Replacing Biden is all part of the plan to steal it and blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes. But the theme through all of this is there are two options here. Trump wins fair and square, or it was rigged against him and he needs to steal it back. And we're going to support him doing so, whether it's the Supreme Court, fake slates of electors, manipulating voting machines, taking voting machines into our own hands, whatever the calling and trying to coerce state election officials by any means necessary. If you believe that it was stolen, you will go along with whatever they say we are going to do. And what they are going to do is what they've been planning to do for years. It's all of the things we've talked about. It is getting as many friendly election officials at the precinct or county level to help them sort of create this firewall to resist the results. It's fake slates of electors, sure. It's frivolous court cases with the knowledge of what didn't work in 2020, such that now maybe they could do it in a way that gets them more effective results. I don't believe they will succeed, but in failing, they can generate chaos, they can generate violence, they can throw democracy into question. And so that's why I hope Kamala Harris is right when she has said, of course, we're planning for this. In an NBC interview last week, she said, I'm focused on running the race this week, but of course we're planning on it for it. Of course, we have lawyers ready to defend against these attempts. Now, there is a new problem for Trump, and it's called Tony Hinchcliffe. How are they reacting to that? Earlier in the show, I played the clips for you of comedian Tony Hinchcliffe speaking at the Madison Square Garden rally yesterday, where he said that Puerto Rico is a floating pile of garbage, and also joked about carving watermelon with a black guy who was wearing a silly hat in the crowd. This did not even go over that well with the bloodthirsty MAGA crowd in the audience, it went over very poorly with just about everybody else. And the Trump campaign and Republicans are now in a panic. The Trump campaign put out a statement saying that the view that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage does not reflect the views of the Trump campaign. Fox and Friends is acting as if it's all been denounced.
Of all the comments, however, of the warm-up acts, there was a comic who made some offensive comments about Latinos and Puerto Ricans and African Americans and others, and he's already been denounced by Republicans and by the campaign. But unfortunately for the Trump campaign, the Harris campaign has denounced it and mobilized influential Puerto Rican influencers like Bad Bunny, who's very big in the Puerto Rican community, in the Latino community. He put out something on Instagram, and so did Ricky Martin with millions of followers. And he wrote, or he said, "This is what they think of us, vote for Kamala Harris." A Trump advisor said the speaker's remarks were not vetted. We're going to talk to Caroline Levitt. She's going to be with us in a moment
part
about
of the pre-show. That was part of the pre. That was 2 hours before the president.
The warm-up.
Oh, it was 2 hours before Trump? Well, then it doesn't matter, does it, Brian?
It's amazing, the cover of the New York Times. Trump at Garden, a closing carnival of grievances, misogyny, and racism. Only somebody who works for the Harris campaign and pretending to be a reporter for the New York Times would write something like that if you watched that 3 hours or 4 hours. You had to flip around to get it. We didn't take all of it live.
Yeah. Of course, Brian Kilmeade is completely delusional there, and it was actually completely representative of what we saw throughout the rally. And then even Republican Rick Scott tweeting that this was not good, tweeting, quote, "This joke bombed for a reason. It's not funny and it's not true. Puerto Ricans are amazing people and amazing Americans. I've been to the island many times. It's a beautiful place. Everyone should visit. I will always do whatever I can to help any Puerto Rican in Florida or on the island." And of course, as is always the case with these guys, we don't know whether he means it or he's accurately recognizing, hey, you know what? There's not only Puerto Ricans in Florida whose votes I need, but in general, there are more Latino voters in Florida as a percentage than in many other states. And I don't want to see them be offended and vote for the Democrat, which is a real problem. If you hear this sort of nonsense, you should be saying to yourself, wait a second, who am I voting for? What am I doing? What? What did they say? So the Republican Party certainly in damage control mode. Trump himself has not denounced this at this point in time, although the campaign put out a statement saying it doesn't reflect the views of Donald Trump. How big of a problem does Tony Hinchcliffe create for the Trump campaign at this point in time? Let me know what you think. Email me info@davidpakman.com. I want to hear from you. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com, joinpakman.com. All right. It's time. We must discuss the Joe Rogan interview with Donald Trump. This may be one of the worst interviews of a political figure in history, at least as far as long-form interviews go. Now, it was bad for a number of reasons. It was bad because Donald Trump lied his way through it, telling hundreds of verifiable lies, confirming his cognitive decline with some completely fabricated memories. But it was also bad to a degree because Joe Rogan was either unprepared or unwilling to challenge the endless lies. Now, I know that there's been a lot of this was the best interview ever things from the MAGA people, and there's been a lot of Joe Rogan did everything wrong stuff from some people on the left. There were some moments where Joe Rogan, in his casual way, exposed the vapid nature of Donald Trump's brain and the feebleness of Trump's brain, and Joe Rogan even laughed in his face. There were a few of those moments, and I'm going to show them to you. But for the most part, I mean, the interview opened with Rogan confirming to Trump one of the things Trump loves. Trump loves to say he's been more unfairly treated than anybody. And of course, it's a hilarious delusion to claim that. And Rogan opened the interview by saying, you're attacked so much. It's crazy how much you're attacked. Almost like adulation in a way. But I don't want to pretend that it was all that from Rogan. There were moments where Rogan exposed that what Trump was saying didn't make any sense, and it was good. So let's go through some of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here is Donald Trump again, playing sort of light, playing coy with dictators, where Rogan says dictators are evil and dangerous, and Trump goes, well, we have evil people in our country too, Joe. But why are we talking about that? Why is it that when Rogan says there's dictators that are evil, you go, well, what about Americans that are evil?
Well, I also
we're dealing
think...
with the smartest people. They hate when I say, when I call President Xi, they said, he called President Xi brilliant. Well, he's a brilliant guy. He controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. I mean, he's a brilliant guy, whether you like it or not. And they go crazy.
Right. It doesn't mean he's not evil, or it doesn't mean he's not
of course not.
dangerous.
But actually, we have evil people in our country.
Yes.
If you have a smart president, he can deal with Russia. He can deal with all of it.
Trump's instinct, whenever Rogan goes, well, you're talking about people who, they might rule with an iron fist, but we're talking about evil people here, which we may not even agree that evil is the right word. But the point Rogan's making is these are not our allies. Trump's immediate reaction is to attack Americans whose politics differ from Trump's, as saying they're evil too. They're someone who works in Michigan and thinks Kamala Harris will be better for their bottom line economically than Trump. Trump is equating to brutal dictators and authoritarians. That's Trump's instinct. Trump also put forward this lie that kids go to school and without any consent, they come back with a sex change operation, I believe is the term Trump uses.
Who would want to have these things? Who would want to have, there's so many, the transgender operations.
Okay, sorry. He calls them transgender operations, not sex change operations. Obviously, we know this is gender affirming care, which, by the way, is not happening, obviously, in the way Trump describes.
Gender operations, where they're allowed to take your child when he goes to school and turn him into a male, to a female, without parental consent.
That is not happening. There is not a single instance of that we have been able to find. Now, to Rogan's credit, there's the good, the bad, the ugly. To Rogan's credit, he did try to get some specific answers from Trump on policy. As many of you know, Trump has said, I'd solve the he has said he'd solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in one term. He failed to do that. He said he would solve the Russia-Ukraine war in a day. Rogan tries to ask him, how would you do it? And Trump kind of dilly-dallies and then says, well, I don't want to tell you.
What could you do now? If you get into office in January, what could you do now?
Right now, you would get both of them. I know both very well. And again, I do not want to tell you, for the purpose of looking smart to 5 people that say, he was great.
Yeah. So he's not going to tell Rogan. He probably has either a plan or a concept of a plan, but he's not going to go and tell Rogan how he's going to do it. Now, at one point, the topic of wind came up. Many of you know that wind is a very delicate issue for Trump. Donald Trump believes that wind power is bad because of the noise. It's bad because of the birds. It's bad because of the whales. It's bad because he doesn't know batteries exist. Wind is just a real problem. And Trump did not disappoint with his rant about wind. And Rogan looked pretty confused during this.
Say that the wind drives him crazy. It's a vibration because you have those, those things are 50-story buildings, some of them.
Right, and they're 50. Super sensitive to vibrations.
They have those
sounds.
The wind is rushing, the things are blowing, it's a vibration, and it makes noise. You know what it is? I want to be a whale psychiatrist. It drives the whales freaking crazy. And something happens with them. But for whatever reason, they're getting washed up.
There you go. So Trump is just so irate about the possibility of wind power. He will say absolutely anything. And Rogan kind of laughing. And, there was one point where Trump rambled so badly that Rogan actually tried to pull him back to reality and said, this weave that you say you do, where you come back to the real topic, it's getting pretty wide. And Trump goes, no, hold on, Joe.
He was not bad, right? That guy.
Oh, he was phenomenal.
But that's your kind of
Your
person.
weave is getting wide. We're getting wide with this weave.
But isn't it
I want to bring
better?
it back to tariffs.
But wait one second, before we finish with tariffs, they said, could you get him?
And just so everybody knows, Trump never went back to tariffs. He never addressed the issue of tariffs. Maybe one of the funnier moments that did not directly impinge on our democracy, we'll get to those moments later. Donald Trump seemingly admits to Rogan that Trump only learned in his later years that trees need water. Oh, wow, we are so screwed if this guy wins.
When a tree falls down, after 18 months, it becomes very dry. It's like, like real firewood. It's bad. A tree that's up, these are all things I learned the hard way, the easy way. But when a tree is up, it sucks water. It's wet. I went to they had a couple of horrible.
Trump learned recently, when the tree is up, it sucks water. It's just sucking and sucking and sucking water. That's something a lot of people don't know. Trump only learned it in his 70s. What a weird interview. What a weird interview. And then at a certain point, Rogan tried a couple of times to get Trump to explain to him, why do environmental experts deliberately delay projects so that they can make more money? This is a claim Trump made. He said, the environmental people are delaying projects so they can make money. Okay, that's quite a claim. How does that work? I'll play a little bit. I'll let this run a little bit so you understand that Trump never goes back to the question. He never answers it. His brain is mayonnaise.
To die.
Are there influences outside of environmental that keep people from wanting to drill for oil and frack and do those sort of things outside of the environmental concerns, which are legitimate, of course?
No,
but
you know that this, just in hearing the question, Trump's not capable of answering such a question.
But are there other influences that may be over-accentuate or over-exaggerate these environmental effects? Are people being influenced in a way where they're trying to keep us from producing American oil?
Yeah. So the environmental is the biggest tool for stopping growth, the biggest tool. The other is regulation. And if you speak to Elon, he said the regulation now to send a rocket up to anywhere, even if you do everything, it's becoming impossible. But they use environmental in order to get people not to do anything. And
so understand, that's just Trump repeating the same claim. Rogan asked for an explanation. So far, Trump just repeats the claim.
Sometimes I say, I look at some of I know the environmental stuff better because I had to build buildings in New York. I had to do environmental impact studies. And I would see some of these guys that I'd hire for a lot of money, environmentalists that would get you through the process. And they'd be up in Albany, that's the capital of New York, and they're up there trying to make it tougher for guys like me that were builders because they'd get paid more money. In other words, I had one guy.
Again, he makes the claim again. He just goes, they get paid money to make things difficult for me to build. But how and why? That's the we understand your claim, but can you, rather than repeat the claim 3 times, explain it?
Highly recommended. I was good at getting permits. I was one of the kings of. I was always very good, but the environmental stuff was always horrible. They could slow a project down 10 years, 15 years. I had a project in Louisiana, built big LNG plant. It was for 14 years. It was going to cost $18 billion, one of the biggest, like the Empire State Building, laying down on its side times 4. Massive on the coast, on the Gulf Coast. And they said, sir, they're going to give it up. I said, they shouldn't give it up. What's the problem? They can't get their environmental. They had environmental.
Anyway, so Trump never actually answers the question. He never answers any question. So a mixed bag during this interview, but I want to focus in on a couple of specific areas that I think are of particular interest and importance. There was a moment during the Rogan interview with Trump where Rogan just laughs in Trump's face. And as is often the case, because Trump lacks a sense of humor, I don't think Trump understands that he's being laughed at. Now, this is not to suggest that Rogan carried out this interview in a masterful way. In many ways, it was sycophantic and brown-nosing with almost no pushback whatsoever. But at this moment, you can see on Rogan's face that he's thinking, man, this dude is completely incoherent. Rogan asks Trump, explain to me, how is it that you won 2020? What's the evidence? And Trump goes, well, I won, I lost by, no, I didn't lose at all. And Rogan just laughs. And this is the start of maybe one of the more interesting exchanges of this interview.
I want to talk about 2020 because you said over and over again that you were robbed in 2020.
Yeah, totally.
How do you think you were robbed? Everybody always cuts you off. I'm going to
They
allow.
do. Well, they not only cut you off. Well, what I'd rather do is we'll do it another time, and I would bring in papers that you would not believe.
So first, it's always the reference to something he can't provide today. Papers are going to come in. He's going to give us a health care plan in 2 weeks. He's going to bring in papers that would knock your socks off.
So many different papers. That election was so crooked. It was the most crooked election.
Okay, but give me some examples of how.
Well, let's start on the top and the easy ones.
Okay.
They were supposed to get legislative approval to do the things they did, and they didn't get it. In many cases, they didn't get it.
What things?
Anything.
Legislative approval
like
of...
for extensions of the voting, for voting.
Okay, now Trump is lying here. What Trump is referring to is that there are states whose constitutions say to change voting rules, you need to go through the legislature. However, what they also say is that in the case of a public health emergency, you don't need to do that. And so there were states that didn't go through the legislature to say, hey, we're going to do more mail-in voting or more early voting because there is a public health emergency right now. You might not like that. It's sort of like when they say the Springfield, Ohio migrants are here illegally. And you tell them, no, they're here legally with something called temporary protected status. And they go, well, they shouldn't be here. That shouldn't be the case. Okay, well, change that. But it is the case. It is the case that you don't need to go through the state legislature when you are in the middle of a public health emergency. But there's another layer to it. It's not only not against the law. Even if it's true that the rules were wrongly changed, just because they were changed doesn't mean it helps Biden over Trump. You might have a rule where it's like, oh, all of a sudden you can vote early. Oh, okay, I don't like how it was done. Well, now Trump supporters and Biden supporters can vote early. You then have to prove not only was it done illegally, but it was the effect of it helped one candidate over another. They haven't been able to prove that either. All right, so let's keep going.
Earlier for this,
Right.
all different things. By law, they had to get legislative approvals. You don't have to go any further than that. If you take a look at Wisconsin, they virtually admitted that the election was rigged, robbed, and stolen.
They did not.
They wouldn't give access in certain areas to the ballots because the ballots weren't signed. They weren't originals. We could go into this stuff. We could go into the ballots or we could go into the overall. I'll give you another one.
Are you going to present
Well,
this
let me-
ever? Do you think like
Let
in
me
a-
just give you one
Okay,
more
go ahead.
before. 51 intelligence agents come up that the laptop was from Russia. It turned out to be totally false. It
51
wasn't.
former intelligence agents, right?
They say that made, I don't believe it's this much, but it doesn't have to. I lost by I didn't lose, but they say I lost.
That's the funniest line. I lost by, I didn't actually lose. And now Rogan's laughing and Rogan understands this is all complete nonsense.
Joe, they say I lost by 22,000 votes. That's like 1/10 of 1%, less than that. It's a
Trump almost seems to be saying that if you only lose by a little, it's sort of like winning and you should just be given the presidency.
tiny little thing. 22,000 votes spread over that's spread over this period. So 51 intelligence agents lied. They lied. They knew it was. It was Hunter's. It was from his bed. It was Hunter's laptop. They said it was created by Russia. Russia. It was the Russia.
And of course, as we know, the reason that the Hunter Biden story was not allowed on some social media platforms, on some it was, but on some it wasn't, is because it contained explicit sexual images of Hunter that were being published without his consent. And this is not only a crime in many states, it also goes against the terms of service of the platform then known as Twitter. So this was maybe Trump's worst area when it came to substance. But now I want to go to the very obvious cognitive deficits that Trump projected during his interview with Rogan. If nothing else, the Rogan interview with Donald Trump reconfirmed Trump's memory is gone. His brain is mush. His cognition has turned to mayonnaise. I've got a bunch of examples. These are from the Rogan interview. Donald Trump claimed that he was on Oprah's show last Thursday. Her show ended more than a decade ago. Okay? Take Exhibit A.
When you were on Oprah's show,
very.
she was encouraging you to
Last
be
week,
president.
I did one of her last shows. I think
Last week, I did one of her last shows.
maybe Thursday or Friday. That was a big deal.
It was Thursday or Friday of last week. The show has been over for more than a decade.
You to be
Last week,
president.
I did one of her last shows. I think maybe Thursday or Friday. That was a big deal, being on Oprah's show, the last one. And I was like one of the last shows in that last.
Very, very weird. Very weird. What is Trump talking about? Trump tried to do one of his history stories, completely fabricates it. Trump claims that President Lincoln was depressed because his son had died, but his son died 6 years after Lincoln. So it doesn't make any sense.
Right. And all of a sudden, I'm standing in the White House. And it was very, very surreal. That room was so beautiful to me, much more beautiful than it actually is. You know, to me, when I looked at the bed, and the bed you could see it was a little bit longer, had to be a little bit longer. He lost his son, and they suffered, the two of them suffered from melancholia. They didn't call it depression. They called it melancholia, and they suffered from it. He was a very depressed guy, and she was a very depressed woman, more so than him. And on top of that, they lost their son, whose name was Ted. And it was just seeing it in the little pictures,
Yeah. So anyway, Tad died 6 years after Lincoln died. Trump then has no memory of playing golf right after getting shot. This is really weird. And Rogan sort of tries to convince him, no, you did play golf right after you got shot. Trump seems to have no memory of it whatsoever.
But it gives me a little exercise. But I haven't played in a long time. I won 32 club championships.
Didn't you play right after you got shot?
No. What I did is I played with Bryson DeChambeau. Do you know Bryson?
Yes.
The pro.
Uh-huh.
He's a great player. And we played, it was a certain thing that we played, I guess called breaking 50 or something. 50, we play from a certain tee, and if you can break 50. And it got tremendous ratings. It was sort of like a crazy thing. It got he's a great guy.
But wasn't that like a couple of days after you got shot?
I don't know. I know I haven't.
That was one of the funniest things. You were on the golf course.
I think I did. Yeah, maybe I did.
Maybe I did. So Rogan has to convince Trump, like, no, golf after, no. I don't even play any. I haven't played for a while. What? What are you talking about? You're playing golf all the time, and you were on the golf course the next day. What do you mean? And by the end of this, Trump's like, maybe I did. Yeah, I don't know. Is it that Trump doesn't remember? Is it that Trump is just so used to lying about everything for no reason that he's just like, I don't know, I'll just keep lying? Rogan asked Trump what it was like on his first day in office. Trump doesn't understand the question. Rogan clarifies the question. Trump still doesn't understand the question of what was it like on your first day as president?
You don't really know what it's going to be like when you actually get into office. What did you think it was going to be like?
In office or when I decided to run?
So when you got in.
When I was in. So when I was in and won and was in the White House, essentially.
Yes.
Well, first of all, it was very surreal.
I would imagine.
It's very interesting. When I got shot, it wasn't surreal. That should have been surreal. When I was laying on the ground, I knew exactly what was going on. I knew exactly where I was hit. They were saying you were hit all over the place because there was so much blood from the ear. You would know that better than anyone. When they get the ear torn up.
Ears bleed a lot,
they bleed. Anyway, so, and I was thinking the other day, when that happened, I really knew where I was. I knew exactly what happened. I said I wasn't hit anywhere else. With the presidency, it was a very surreal experience, okay?
Like, what's day one like? You win,
yeah,
you get inaugurated, holy shit, I'm the president.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so Trump opting to tell a story about his ear when he's asked about his first day in the White House. And finally, Donald Trump claimed that Lincoln had a phobia of Robert E. Lee and that they didn't get along or something. Lincoln and Robert E. Lee never met. I mean, it's another one of these completely fabricated stories.
I don't know. I've never read this. I heard it from people in the White House who really understand what was going on with the whole life of the White House. But Lincoln had the yips about, in a way, as the golfers would say. He had a phobia about Robert E. Lee. He said, I can't beat Robert, because Robert E. Lee won many battles in a row. He was just beating the hell out of him. You know, they tried to get Robert E. Lee to be on the North, but he said, no, I have to be with my state. You know, and the state was his whole thing, and he went to the South. And he was, I've had generals tell me, we have some great generals, the real generals, not the ones you see on television, the ones that beat ISIS with me. We defeated ISIS in record time. It was supposed to take years, and we did it in a matter of weeks. These are great generals. These are tough guys. These are not woke guys. But their favorite general in terms of genius was Robert E. Lee.
Yeah. So anyway, he tells this Lincoln phobia story about Robert E. Lee. Historians have investigated it. They have been able to find no evidence of it whatsoever. So in sum total, Trump incoherent during the interview, telling a number of completely made up stories that are, they seem indicative of Trump's memory being gone, and Rogan doing a pretty mediocre job with the occasional question that gets Trump to say something really, really dumb. In the net, there are those saying this interview is the death of the Trump campaign, and there are those saying this interview just saved Trump's campaign because so many people saw it. My prediction is it doesn't move the needle one way or the other. If you value what we do at The David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind-the-scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial-free daily show. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. The repercussions of Donald Trump's interview with Joe Rogan were not only the clips of the interview itself, which were completely outrageous, but a crowd in Michigan was made to wait for 3 hours out in the cold for Donald Trump to show up. An extraordinarily red-looking Trump recorded a video message to his fans explaining how late he was running. He was already an hour late at this point and said there were still multiple hours to go. Why is he late to everything?
Big screen.
Including doing Joe Rogan, and we want to just win. So I said, will they understand in Traverse City? Otherwise, I'll be very upset with myself, and I think you will. And it's a Friday night, so we can sit around. We'll do an extra special job when we get there. I think we land in about 2 hours, and we're stepping on the gas.
He's an hour late and landing in 2 hours.
Yes, but it's all about winning, and we had to spend some extra time with some people, and lots of people actually. But we are going to do a special performance, and we'll be there.
It'll be extra special.
And I think you'll see the plane land and the whole thing, and we really appreciate it. Hope you can stay around. We'll be about 2 hours. I should land around 10 or a little before that. And I appreciate it very much. We're going to have a good time tonight. See you in a little while.
Okay, so then people started to leave, essentially. When he was already an hour late and announced that it would be 2 more hours, here are people in Traverse City, Michigan, just leaving. Listen, I don't know why anyone would even go to one of these rallies to begin with. I've said that before. But once you hear it's going to be 3 hours late, it's cold, there's elderly folks, it just doesn't make any sense. And so people start leaving, and good for them. Trump ultimately does make it, comes out dressed in black to the Undertaker's theme in a really bizarre moment. And then I'm not going to make you suffer like this, but he stood on stage for a while as the Undertaker theme from WWE, or when it used to be WWF, who knows? It was just playing. Right. Okay, so people had to stand through that. Then they did the Lee Greenwood, proud to be an American, that whole thing that Trump loves, and he just stands there rotating, hinged at the waist. They stood through that, and then they had to stand through Ave Maria as well. And a very strangely colored Trump just standing there. By the way, the guy who is known as Brick Suit, who we've interviewed before, you can see him above Trump's right shoulder wearing what looks like a brick suit. That's quite a guy. And in general, Michigan was just weird for Trump. This is from a different Michigan campaign stop now, Trump in Novi, Michigan, where he says, no more cows if I lose.
No, these people are for real. You know, the cows are going to disappear. No more cows. No more anything.
Yes. And as you remember, Trump said that if Biden won, there would be no more air conditioning, no more indoor heating, no more windows, no more flushable toilets, no more water pressure for showering. There was just going to be nothing. And poof, if Trump loses, the cows will just be gone. And then Trump continuing his campaign of terror against the media. The media.
See, now the camera didn't show that. So for all of you at home, you're going to have to come in and watch in person. Can you imagine? It's so nasty. They're so nasty. They're so evil. They are actually the enemy of the people. They really are. So
we have two major enemies that Trump believes we need to fight against. Not uncaring corporate interests, not authoritarian dictators around the world, not climate change. No. We need to fight against the enemy within, aka voters who don't support Trump, and we need to fight against the media, the enemy of the people. This is a classic desensitization technique. When Trump first said the media is the enemy of the people, it got headlines. They didn't last as long as they should have. They weren't as alarmist as they should have been, but there were headlines when Trump first said the media is the enemy of the people. Now he says it just about every rally. It gets zero coverage. And then finally, just to give you a sense of how dead Trump's audience was in Novi, he's just ranting incoherently, flitting about from one topic to another, and the crowd is just silent. You could hear a pin drop.
how I got into politics in the first place.
And I know the audio is a disaster.
But we're going to bring all those plants back. We're going to bring all those jobs back. And I've been saying that for her. She's never said that. But every single thing, and if you have her, it's not going to happen. I don't believe. Look, I'm not supposed to say this because you got to vote. If you don't vote, otherwise.
So the crowd completely silent and quiet. And it actually got so bad at this point that even Fox News cut away. This stuff is so toxic. Even Fox is like, I guess we'll go to something different.
One day they had 39 million votes. At the end, they had a winner, they had a loser, and that was it. Everybody went home. That's crazy. And we're going to get it back. With your help, 10 days from now. But there's a big lobby against it, you know.
All right, you've been listening to former President Trump in Novi, Michigan. We'll continue to monitor that and bring you any news if it...
All right, so another day, another flat, half-filled rally. The next 8 days are going to be nuts as far as these rallies go. Dueling rallies most days, either for Trump and or Vance, as well as Harris and or Tim Walz. We'll be covering them. We're getting to the end. I don't even know if I should talk about polling anymore. Whenever I talk about polling, people get mad. And it's like, we're 8 days away. What difference does it make? We'll know the results soon. So let me know, do you want a final polling update? Yes or no? We have a great bonus show for you today. We will talk about the further fallout from the Tony Hinchcliffe fiasco. We will talk about the mass deportation idea polling very poorly, very, very poorly. And also about the Washington Post's non-endorsement decision. They will not endorse in the White House race. Why? Well, you ask 8 people, you'll get 10 answers on this one. All of that and more on today's bonus show. Sign up at joinpacman.com. Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. Sitting for hours can wreak havoc on your health and posture. I only use standing desks. A standing desk helps me get the creative juices flowing. It helps me focus and stay productive. And the only standing desk I've been using for years is Uplift Desk. Long before they became a sponsor, I'm sitting at it right now. Uplift desks are rock solid. They offer way more customization options unlike other brands. You can choose the shape, material, color, accessories. The possibilities are endless. Go to upliftdesk.com/Pacman to receive up to $300 off, plus 4 free desk accessories. The link is in the description.